Welcome to Farsight's Cryptocurrency Forecasting Project. I am Courtney Brown, Director of the Farsight Institute, where we conduct a broad range of experiments using remote viewing in a large variety of settings and across a great many topics. Remote viewing was originally developed by the United States military and used for espionage purposes. However, Farsight is civilian, and we use remote viewing for scientific investigations and for exploration. In this edition, we have a 3-month forecast for Ethereum that runs from October 18th through January 18th, 2019. In a few days, we will publish our results analysis for our last Ethereum forecast that ended on October 15th. And as you will see, in our last forecast, we hit the decline in Ethereum prices exactly, precisely hitting the timing of the bottoming out of the decline. The other dynamics of Ethereum's pricings were more complicated and really interesting from a remote viewing perspective, so I encourage you to watch the analysis when it comes out in a few days. You will learn a lot about remote viewing, and it will be fascinating, so stay tuned. Also, we will be changing the duration of our short-term forecast after this forecast, which you are now watching, to be 4 months rather than 3 months, so that we can include Ripple in our forecast lineup. So our big four, so to speak, will be Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and Ripple, with a new 4-month forecast coming out each month, one at a time. As you know, we use a mental process known as remote viewing to make our forecasts, and we employ a new experimental design that makes these forecasts possible. I also want to encourage everyone to watch our educational video that explains the mechanics of how we do these forecasts. We just published this educational video this October, and you can find it on our website and our YouTube channel. It is called Farsight's Forecasting Method. In addition to an interesting methodology, we also have some of the most highly skilled and trained remote viewers on the planet doing the work. So what you are seeing here cannot be found anywhere else. But before we begin, it is important that you understand our disclaimer. No one at Farsight is a licensed financial advisor, so anything that anyone at Farsight does that relates to using remote viewing to predict financial or economic outcomes of any type, including the selling prices of cryptocurrencies, is done for entertainment and educational purposes only. Everyone doing investments are doing so at their own risk. These are experiments in remote viewing, and there are no guarantees or warranties being made, either expressed or implied. Nonetheless, these efforts are truly interesting on a grand scale, and I personally believe that after we do this for a while, it will be hard for anyone to ignore the reality of remote viewing. So, now on to our new forecast for Ethereum. We have two primary methods of analyzing remote viewing data when making forecasts. The first is called complexity analysis, and that is often very useful in making actual price predictions. The second approach to analyzing our remote viewing data is called contextual analysis. Now, contextual analysis is useful for determining behavioral characteristics of price changes, including trends. Contextual analysis focuses on the types of price changes, market volatility, and whether a rise or a drop in a price will dominate during a forecasting period. And sometimes we do both forms of analysis. For this forecast, we are going to analyze the remote viewing data primarily using complexity analysis, since we have what appear to be good pricing data. We seem to be heading into a really interesting period for Ethereum, and in my opinion, I think people need to understand the nature of what I think will happen. I think most of you will agree once you see the data and hear the analysis. Basically, using remote viewing, we obtain descriptive information for a target or location that relates to a currency's future price behavior. And the nature of that descriptive information depends on the qualitative characteristics of the price changes. The targets that are perceived by the remote viewers are created after the forecasting period is over using CGI software. But the rules for how those targets are created and how they are tied to the behavior of a cryptocurrency are established before the forecasting period starts. So we look at the remote viewing data and know how those rules will be applied in the future, and thus we know about the behavior of the cryptocurrency element in question. I explain more about this process in the educational video Farsight's Forecasting Method that I mentioned earlier, and which can be found on our website and on YouTube. Our forecasting method utilizes something called masking in remote viewing research, where there is a one-to-one mapping between the description of a physical location obtained using remote viewing and the financial behavior of a cryptocurrency. For example, physical features and characteristics that are perceived by a remote viewer to be at a target location represent certain things in our rules, and seeing what happens to those things in the data help us to know what will happen to the things relating to the cryptocurrency's pricing. You will also notice that the remote viewers do not always describe the same scene, and this is part of the experimental design. The rules that we use to evaluate the data are the same for all remote viewers, but they can perceive different scenes in their sessions, so there is no requirement for the viewers to have complete overlap in terms of the exact physical elements that they see in their sessions. The overlap occurs in the interpretation of their data with respect to the rules of the target creation process. And after you see the remote viewing data that we will use as a basis for this forecast, I will step you through how we conduct the analysis of these data. Each remote viewer examines two targets in this forecast. The first target applies to the high price of Ethereum during the forecast period, and that is target 6A. The second target applies to the low price of Ethereum during the forecast period, and that is target 6B. The remote viewers are among the absolute best on the planet currently, and they are Aziz Brown, Princess Janae, and Melina Hall. All three have been working full-time with remote viewing for a great many years, and all three have outstanding public track records in a great many public experiments done here at Farsight. Working blind and with no communication between the viewers regarding any of the results for this project, this is as good as it gets. We start with the results for currency target 6A, which again relates to the high price of Ethereum over the forecast period. The sessions are all very short, since the viewers are summarizing data that they obtained while conducting sessions using paper and pen. So this is not live remote viewing as we do with our Time Cross and Mysteries projects. Rather, these are summaries of what the viewers perceived, and this will allow me to step you through the analysis of the data. Beginning with Aziz Brown, and then Princess Janae, and then Melina Hall, here are the perceptual data for target 6A. Again, these data correspond to the high price of Ethereum over the 3-month period from the 18th of October 2018 through the 18th of January 2019.
All right, so here is the data for currency 6A.
My basic gestalts here are land, water, structures, and mountains. I have very flat land with 5 strongly peaked structures or mountains of some sort here in the background. They're all made of natural materials.
We have 2 targets for currency 6A and currency 6B. Now here's my first visual for currency 6A.